Hey everyone, welcome to the Permission to Play podcast, a creative talk podcast where you have permission to be creative and to experience everything that comes along with the process. We are your hosts, myself, Christina Barcy. We have Kyle Dallatorre and Yelpy, and of course Lloyd Robeson. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to the Permission to Play podcast. We're here with three of us today. Lloyd is enjoying himself in Europe. I've got Kyle and Yelpy and me.
Hello, P2P.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey guys. So today Kyle is presenting a topic that was on her mind this past week. So Kyle, do you want to tell us what you're thinking about?
Yeah, sure. I had reached out because this issue of limitations kept popping up, maybe just for me in these last couple of weeks. And it's really self-limitations. And I think that every artist deals with whatever limitations there are, whether it be financial limitations, personal things like just demons that you kind of haven't really etched out yet. Those keep coming back. And then just limitations that we put on ourselves that actually, that nobody else can kind of see, which kind of feeds into personal demons. But I think it's a little bit more technical in that. So I just wanted to get you guys' take actually on, I know that you guys are very, I would call you advanced in your artistry because you guys kind of, I've gathered you guys kind of know yourselves and who you are as an artist. You're very confident in what you do, and there's probably not too many of those huge walls that are still there. But I would venture also to think that they are still there in many ways, and maybe they're just looking different. So, what do you guys think?
I think financial is always a limitation, isn't it? I mean, you're never, unless you're a billionaire, you never don't have a financial limitation. So no matter what you do, you have to organize whatever you're doing, be it like a song or whatever it is, around what you can afford to do. And then there's a time limitation as well. So I think those things go without saying. I don't think you need to really highlight them because I think you can avoid them. Everybody has those, right? But I think other limitations are, for me, I think my biggest thing is when I want to do something and you need someone else to do it. So you need to rely on them, and I kind of would rather I could do it myself. So then maybe I try and do a less good version of, just so I have control. I think, there's a limit to what I can do, and I'd like to be able to do more, I think. Yeah, so that would be my, for example, if, you want to do a recording, then you have to go to a studio, but I'd rather just do it at home all by myself and not have to deal with all that kind of stuff. But, there's a limit there, and you can't do everything yourself, and you have to deal with, other things. And so, but I think I like to push the limits. I like to try and, as I get older and more experienced, to try and do more of it myself, maybe. So I don't know. That would be mine.
Do you think that just sort of playing devil's advocate with you a little bit, because I know we've talked about this before, of wanting to sort of have more control and less reliance on others and maybe a different product, but I wonder if it could work in the other way too, where as you're experiencing doing everything yourself, there's limitations to that experience as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my point, is you want to take control of things, but there's only so much you can do yourself. And then you get to the point where you go, will I do this myself, or would I get a better result if I get someone else to do it? But then you have to take on the yan of that is like when you have to rely on that person, then they have to get it done, and you have to push them, and blah, blah, blah. So I guess, you have to balance your limits. Like, with, you know, will I do this myself and maybe it won't be as good, but it'd be good enough that I'm happy with it, and there are the limits that I have, or do I not limit myself by getting someone who knows what they're doing? But then the other thing you have to deal with then is like, do they have the same vision as you? What if they don't do it exactly what you had in mind, or what if they put their own spin on it? Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? I don't know, you know, there's, yeah.
Ooh, I
crazy.
like that a lot, Yelpy. I love that. I think that we should make that a whole nother topic, is collaborating. And when like people do something a little bit different, bad or good, like, yeah, that's a great, that's inspiring. Anyways, you got to edit that out because we need to do that. Yelpy, remember that you came up with that. It's a great topic. All right. Thanks for going with my flow, guys.
Well, I think other things in regards to limits, I was just thinking while you were talking there, I was like, I guess like when I was younger, the biggest limitation for me would have been I was learning guitar, and, you know, before I could fully master it, you know, I would be limited what I could play and the songs I could write. Now I don't have that limit because I've been playing for so long. Even if there's something that I would find complicated maybe to play, you know, it's a limitation I can overcome pretty quickly. You know, but that used to be a big thing for me. I'd want to, my mind would want to do so much, and my physical ability wouldn't be able to keep up with that, you know.
I relate to that. I used to feel like that a lot in school, where I have this big idea of what I want to accomplish. Like I'll have a very grand idea, and like trying to put that into action within the limits of a time frame, for example, like while you're doing an assignment or something that just takes a lot of learning that I don't have the space for. Like in school, you have an assignment, you have to get it done, and I hated having to cut my ideas down into smaller sizes and do something that I wasn't as inspired by. But now, I also was thinking while you were bringing this up, is that I kind of value the idea of limitations a lot in that realm now that I didn't before, where I used to get very frustrated with that. Where now I feel like it's a great way to leverage a challenge and to have an opportunity to be innovative in ways that you would have never expected. Because now you have limitations put on, like money, like maybe people that are available to work with or not, which means maybe you learn a brand new skill. Like maybe you spend less money, so you have to really like scrounge all of these like materials and sources that you had no idea existed that are actually really useful, and now they're free. Or create a new relationship with somebody who you can, you know, do a trade with. There's just so many cool things that can come out of having limitations, that if you had all the money in the world or had a budget that was giant, you'd have a very different project on your hands and a very different experience. So I feel like now I've just going through the world of self-creating, I've learned to kind of embrace it in this other way. It's something I also refer to as resources. Like, what are your resources? Is something I always ask someone that wants to start a project, because those are going to be your limitations, and those are also going to be the things you pull from to create what you want to create. So it reminds me of that experience too.
Yeah, it's something about having too many choices that can feel overwhelming. But if you have certain limitations, that it's there's a really good freedom in that, though. It's almost like a little game, a very creative little game. You only have this box to work with. So what are you going to kind of do with that? And it's very freeing in a lot of ways. So I like that. Yeah. I like how you said that. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it becomes like a puzzle.
Yeah. That's a better way to put it, a puzzle. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, makes it fun.
Yeah.
I think like from a music point of view, it can also be very beneficial to have those limits, because you can, a song can grow into a beast of a thing if you don't have any limits. Like if you just keep adding to it and building upon it, it can become this thing that maybe it'll be good, but sometimes simpler things are better. I mean, that's one thing I've noticed since being a singer-songwriter instead of being in a band. It's like in a band, you don't really have any limits insofar as you have 3 other guys and they're all contributing as well, and you can pretty much feel like you can do anything. You've got an amazing drummer who can play anything. But then when you're on your own and you kind of think, well, how am I going to play this live by myself, and still have the same vibe? And that can limit what you put into the recording, but it can also make it more simple, but more honest. I don't know.
Yeah, there's something really approachable when you simplify things for the audience, for the person that's receiving whatever you're creating, and vice versa. Like, you have to edit more. You have to, editing is such a great process that I used to really fight, because it kind of brings me back to what you say about music, Yelpy, where you're like, but that's the song. And I always felt like, but that's the idea. Like, I don't want to over edit it. And I like the process of that initial, I realize went through this thing where I was very infatuated with the beginning of that inspiration point. Was just so, like, you just want to live in that for as long as you can. And as soon as you have to really, like, I was just scared of the process is what it was. I didn't want to really dive in and, like, really dig into what the process requires. And that's having to consider limitations and editing and simplifying and starting again sometimes. Like, all of these things that, there's a moment where you go, but that's the idea, right, in the grand scheme of things. But then you've got to really pick it apart and go, okay, what is the core of this idea? And what do I gain or lose when I take this away or move this around or lose this part of it or limit this area, and all of that whole thing.
Yeah, it's kind of about letting a little bit of your ego go too, and your ideas, not being married to your ideas. Was a really, it's hard, right? Because, like, it's your baby and you see something and you're so inspired by it that you want it to live. And just like you said, Christina, it's at the end of the day, if you trust, like, and I'm thinking more for a collaborative process too, because I feel like when different artists start to put their hands on it, it's obviously not going to be the best version of your idea. And maybe it is, but sometimes, like, there's a little bit of a compromise, and there's a lot of letting your ego go, not being married to your ideas, and trying to figure out, like, well, can it go here, and living and giving that, and, like, that life of the idea an opportunity and a chance. So kind of not limiting yourself on your own ideas. You can often, I don't know, it just, again, it's just personal experience, but you can really get something amazing that you didn't even see. And it becomes what you ultimately are going to fall in love with.
I think for me, it has more to do with what you said, Kyle, and having the right collab, like really starting with the right collaborators and knowing who's going to honor and be excited about your vision, like people that come on board for that reason instead of coming on board because they have to or because they feel desperate or for whatever reason people do things that they don't necessarily believe in. And then secondly, like having a really clear idea of why you're doing this particular project, this idea, what's the important thing about it. So then you kind of have an idea of what can change, like what part of it is flexible once you understand like the core of the message and your solid why. And I think if you can figure that out and get really clear on that, then it's not so hard to let go of those details.
I think time can be a huge limitation as well. Like the time you allow yourself, especially with songs, like you could just go on forever, and just keep changing and adding and never be happy. What I've been doing lately, actually, I've been trying to write. Sometimes you write a song and it's like straight away you just write it and it's over. Sometimes it can go on forever because it's just not the one you want. But when that does happen, I try not to force it, and I kind of go off and do other stuff and then come back to it, that kind of way.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can take. I remember I had a song and it was like a certain way. For example, I remember I had a song and I had it a certain way for a long time, but I never played it live because it was never the song it was supposed to be, so I wasn't 100% invested in it. But I didn't force it because every time I tried to force it, I couldn't write it. And then one day, like 5 years later, I just rewrote it and it was ready to go. And,
Wow.
and lately I've been having the same issue with a song, and I think I've written about 20 melodies already, and it's still not what I wanted it to be, so I keep coming back to it and leaving it. Like, I don't linger on it too long. I'll leave it and just come back to it later. I don't try not to force those things. I find it helps when it comes to music is when you're kind of stuck in a song and you can't like, it's not in a place where you're happy enough with it, you know what I mean? It's not what it wants to be. It's not the song it wants to be. I always find it, just go write a different song, come back to it.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah.
Just don't force those ones, because those ones they want to be bigger than, the time you're giving them. You're trying to force them.
That's a good idea for anything, is to just kind of walk away and get your brain thinking in a totally different direction. I think we've talked about that previously, Christina. I know specifically for you, I know you like to be working on a lot of things at one time, because it helps your brain kind of make those synapses fire in different creative ways. It's actually really helpful. That's I love writing like 6 songs at a time, honestly, because it'll be inspired to work on one, and that will inherently make another one, just another idea for another one. So that, to me, it's inspiring and creative, and I really like to do it. So yeah, it really is. Sometimes you just need to walk away from something and engage your brain in something else to kind of get the cobwebs out, and then go back and it's a little bit more fresh.
Yeah, that works for me. If I'm feeling run down on something, is to just not do it if I can afford to not do it for a couple of days, or at least a day. That usually helps me. Like, sleeping on a project and doing something totally different is really helpful for me. But that's a luxury, right? If you can actually put something down for that long, sometimes things need to have deadlines and you have to keep going. But if that's the case, then yeah, you could do it real simply, right? Like, take a break for an hour and do something completely different that is still fun and important to you. Or go outside.
Or maybe, just go outside, talk to someone, anyone. Just engage with another human being.
Or even, in terms of music, even go listen to other people's music. That's always really good. Let's go, even listen to stuff maybe you haven't listened to before. That side project I've been working on, I I did a Deadpool song, a joke song for that. And I just released it, and it's about, the actor who plays the cab driver in Deadpool. Anyway, well, in the movie, the cab driver is kind of like this funny character. Anyway, I just released it, and he liked it and commented on it.
Oh, yay!
That is so cool.
That's
kind of
awesome,
cool,
man. Oh, that's so cool.
Especially seeing it's just a joke thing. It's kind of cool.
No, that's awesome.
Those are the best because they're so free. Like, those types of projects, they're so free of limitations. And they're easy. They're easy to make. They're easy to put out there because you don't have any attachments to it.
Actually, that's a good example. That one I just did, I didn't really have any limitations because there's no expectations. It's just for fun. But I did actually I was doing the video myself, and I ended up spending a lot of time in that video because I wanted a certain thing, and the limitation is I can't draw. I'm not that type of person. I wanted a certain thing. So it took me a few weeks to get what I wanted because I wanted to do it myself, So, but it's fine. It's all good, Especially when you don't have pressure, it's grand,
Yeah. That's like the flip side of limitations, right? Like, just putting it out there.
I guess the only pressure I had was that I want that the movie is out this weekend, so I wanted to have it done before this weekend.
Ooh.
So that would be...
You did it.
Yeah.
Yay. Thanks for listening, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe. Please share. Please. It's really helpful for us to hear from you. So leave us a comment. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening from all of us here at Permission to Play podcast. We hope you invite a little more creative space and permission into your day. We'd love to hear what you think by leaving us a review on iTunes. Please subscribe and share, and you can also find all of us on social media. Till next time, and don't forget to play.